Well, I come from the live school of social media, so I can knock them out real quick.
Okay.
However you need to do it. But
That
thank you
that
so much for having me. My name is Sam Liebel. I'm the author of AFL the Bastard. And one thing I learned early on is that people only listen to the beginnings and sometimes the endings of all of these things, as
okay.
I've kind of run my little burgeoning media empire. But my first and foremost thing is AFL the Bastard, although I've had to take a day job recently just to, because, the creator economy, all that bull all that nonsense that we all have to deal with. And but yeah, no, hey, I'm happy to be here too. And if you want to go take away and do your intro too, it's on
Well,
Substack. All my stuff is on Substack. You can find me on Substack, and I'm sure that Malcolm, you'll put in all the links.
yeah, I will. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, I hope you don't take offense. I feel like my previous guests, maybe I should have told them a little bit, but I just kind of wanted to have a really casual, kind of conversational style. So yeah, I was going to put all of that stuff in the description for sure, though.
We like the casual.
So what did you start on TikTok?
No, I started just I never really wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be like a Don Draper type guy. So
Okay.
work in like advertising.
Okay.
And that was kind of what I wanted to do. My big idol growing up was Steve Jobs. I still think he's the most innovative, person in the world since Tesla, and just an amazing figure. So I wanted to be I wanted to have like that kind of life, and so I started in the tech field. But I don't really have a talent for technology. Not necessarily that he did. I think that Steve Jobs had more taste and a talent for humanity. I'm not saying I've got that, but my talent was in writing, so I kind of wanted to channel that into. I was really inspired by Mad Men, both as like a person, as an artist, as a sales representative, and so I wanted to kind of channel that creative ethos that Don Draper had, really looking through the penumbra of the United States as metaphysics, which I'm kind of going off on a tangent and everything, but
No, no, go
great
on.
show, big fan.
It's funny because
But yeah, that
I was just thinking about that show this morning. I was watching a little video on it there, so it was back in my mind. But there is one problem with Don Draper, and that's maybe that he's you peel back all the layers and there's like nothing there essentially.
he's nothing. He's empty. He's empty. There is no he's a hollow man. He's the man in the gray flannel suit. He is he is and isn't, and is defined by his overwhelming desire to touch the real warmth and love that he peddles as an ad man, but is doomed never to experience himself because of his very fraught nature and troubled circumstances growing up.
But then through that
He,
lens,
fa-
it's
he
like
faced a lot of abuse.
yeah, yeah. But then through that lens, they're able to kind of expose that that's like a yearning that a lot of people have, and they're unable to fulfill.
Indeed, indeed. Let me turn. I'm streaming Carrie, the 2013 version. I love
Okay.
Stephen King.
I've seen the
I was
original.
just
I read
pausing.
the book too. I'm definitely
Oh,
a
that's
fave.
great. The Stand, I got into some trouble because I always say that The Stand is my favorite fantasy book. You know,
Okay.
I put it in the same category as like Lord of the Rings. You have an epic tale, right? Check one. You
Mhm.
have forces of good and evil. Check. You have a fellowship of people from diverse backgrounds coming together to triumph over true evil. It's a fantasy book.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
it's just he uses this like post-apocalyptic element to create the fantasy setting, and you see it all develop like from the beginning.
To raise the stakes. That's why I do fantasy. I consider my book, EFL the Bastard, to be a very modern tale, just set in the trappings of the Angevin and pre-Angevin Empire of Western Europe.
So do you consider I don't know if I should ask this in a really loaded way, but do you consider like Tolkien to be kind of like a black mark or on the fantasy genre? Okay,
No, of
so it's
course
not
not.
because I think it's almost like a that's why it would be considered controversial, because it's like you get into the situation where unless it has these particular stylistic elements that he laid down, then people reject it as fantasy, basically.
No, no. And anyone who does that, I have, I don't really, I don't really care for that opinion very much.
No, me neither.
Fantasy is, fantasy is, to me, it was just being fascinated by things like Gladiator growing up, being fascinated with things like, um, Kingdom of Heaven by Ridley Scott, a lot of Ridley Scott movies,
Okay,
um,
I like those
and
movies.
wanting, yeah, they're great. They're great. I mean, Kingdom of Heaven has its downfall or its problems, don't get me wrong, but it's just a beautiful set piece. It's like watching an epic oil painting and I loved it. And I wanted to have that as my central touchstone for what I wanted my book, my fantasy book, Ethel the Bastard, to look like. And by the way, I'm also kind of branching out. Substack kind of demands of us to write about writing and to write sort of postmodernist, think pieces
Hmm.
about, you know, which it's like a bunch of pieces about how the Kardashians are actually a lot deeper than you think. That's like the classic Substack piece. It's like, and
Or
then you
the
kind of like are think, yeah, go ahead.
you see it happen like with these sort of hot topics that come and go, like that Sabrina Carpenter album
Oh
cover
yeah,
think
what
piece.
even was that? She's on
I
a
don't know.
she's on a she's on an album cover.
Yeah, it's like what are we supposed to think about this?
I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm a fan of Sabrina Carpenter. I'll say that much.
Well, yeah, the album cover definitely made me feel some things. I don't know. But
No
I don't know.
comment. No
I don't know if
comment. I'm
sh
just saying I'm a fan.
yeah, I don't know if I should really write down my thoughts in a think piece, but I'm already in enough trouble.
Well, I'm a writer, my man. I it all goes in the hopper,
Yeah.
which is the book, the writing. I've always got like a little like free. My uncle thought that he introduced me to this term, but little did he know I'm a student of history. The commonplace book, it's just sort of like a general kind of like book where you just sort of put all your thoughts and everything into it all the time.
Okay, I can't quite see
So
that. Is that a notebook?
yeah,
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, I'm just getting a low
that's
rid.
the process. That's the process right there. A bunch of notes and handwriting stuff when I should have been studying for this insurance exam. Being a creator in this day and age is tough, man. That's why I work in insurance now. But I still am writing day and night, getting the book out there. AFL the Bastard, the people's fantasy novel.
So how close are you to finishing it?
I'd say I'm about halfway done, maybe a third done.
Okay,
The plan was originally to publish it as a serial novel in the vein of Dickens, maybe Tristram Shandy,
nice.
except as an epic fantasy. I was really inspired by Star Wars, as I think we all are, and Star Wars is just a wonderful, great thing. And I wanted to have it be this serial kind of space opera y kind of thing. But that didn't work out. The economics just aren't there. Substack does not have any kind of base for fiction whatsoever.
Okay,
Everyone there is for the only people that are in like that are fiction readers on Substack are other authors and writers of fiction. And the
okay,
most successful fiction, quote unquote, on Substack is fiction about fiction, i.e., reviews, etc. Not fiction about fiction. That would be reviews, but like, reviews of other stuff, which is great and that's important. And there's some great writers out there that I've had the opportunity to network with and connect. But Substack is not where I will build the business of publishing in the future. That will have to be more the traditional route, which is a shame. I really wanted to make it work on Substack, and I thought that I had, a plan to do it and make it really an interesting and innovative thing while still telling a great fantasy story that everybody could get behind. But you know, plans fail, and I had, that didn't quite work out. But so I'm going more the traditional route. It's also kind of, Ethel the Bastard has become more than just the book. It's also about like one guy's journey navigating this crazy modern 2025, trying to get a book out there and survive.
when did you lose confidence that Substack you'd be able to do that on Substack?
Oh, just a few months in, it became clear that there was no all the. I was pretty early on the. Do you remember when? How long have you been on Substack?
Like 3 months or something, 4 months.
Okay, I mean I haven't been on that long. I've been on like January 2025 is when I started publishing.
Okay.
The book itself, I had like kind of concepted since like well over 6 years. It had been in my head, and I'd been like making notes and drawing stuff and making maps and stuff and coming up with concepts. But um, you know, I haven't been on there that long, but I came onto it and pretty quickly saw like I was on. Whoa, that was what I was talking about. The rising list. So there used to be this. There still is this list of hot rising people, like a leaderboard.
Right.
And in the early days, it was like, were you here for that? Everybody was on it for like a minute, but I was on it all over the place for several different publications. But it turned out, and I was excited by that and encouraged by that.
Right.
And there were some great network effects from that, people signing up to my book because of that. But it was also just because it was just my friends and family who had signed up. I think we all have that first initial push, where we've got our friends and family. At least I did. Like there's a Substack joke at least that's like, my mom is my subscriber. Like my one subscriber is my mom or something. But yeah, shout out to my mom, Celia Liebel. She's my number one subscriber on Substack and my number one subscriber on when I was trying to sell the book as a book chapter by chapter. So she is basically bankrolling the project at this point. And also shout out KDK, who was my day one, and she was the first one to buy my. I wanted to do a tiered subplot experiment where people could, if they wanted to, because AFL the Bastard's free forever. It was first published on my website, which is samliebel.com. And that's the
Okay.
home base. So if you go to my Substack, you'll notice that it's just stack.samliebel.com. That's Liebl, Sam Liebel, Liebl. And I wanted to establish a beachhead on internet territory that I owned, so to speak. And Substack has some great tools. I badmouth Substack a lot, but I don't think it's Substack's fault that there's not an audience on there. They do make a lot of good tools that they do what they do really well. And like the Substack Live is super robust. But there are other complaints. You may have seen me do an article in the past with another author whom I really respect. Her name is Nico Harlekinden, and she's also on Substack. You can find her
Yeah.
in various publications, but she is just recently released an anthology, which is a great genre or a great type of mode that we should all get back into. But we did a piece called Substack to Creators, You're on Your Own, where I talked about my experiences trying to get in touch with Substack support. And it was the story of one support ticket over the course of my entire time at Substack that still has not gone answered. Because, I don't know if you know this, Substack has outsourced its entire customer service support infrastructure entirely to AI.
Okay,
Did you
that
know
was what I
this?
thought. I had to deal with something. It was a very minor technical thing, but yeah, I wasn't talking to a person at all.
No. The Not only that, it's not just a chatbot that has like a backup of people that, like if things get too hairy. The problem is it's all AI. So that's what that article is all about. I just sort of told my story. Nico comes in with the hard hitting details about like what exactly is going on behind the scenes at Substack. We were hoping for a response from people, but nothing. I also spammed a friend's live where Hamish McKenzie was on, trying to get his attention. Hamish McKenzie's the CEO of Substack, but he's ghosting me. Whatever.
It's they've like he's like a really big public face, it seems like, for it, but then they don't have good PR in general, like when it comes to interfacing with the users or whatever.
Not at all. I've been every post that I see from Substack in my feed on Instagram, I comment like Substack sucks or Substack blows. And I'm always in the top two comments. Like no one's commenting on their stuff. So by the way, follow me on Instagram. I'm Sam in Practice. Sam in Practice. My whole shtick is that I'm a sales rep turned author. So I've got this kind of sales engine behind all of this.
Okay.
12 years in sales and marketing, tech, enterprise sales, doing that sort of thing. Always been interested in technology. We were talking about Steve Jobs earlier. But I've always written poetry on the side, just as like my humble pursuit or my hobby. and was starting to publish them before I got laid off in October 2024. Did not take it well. Was looking for something to hang on to as I was interviewing for different places, these startups, these post IPO bullshit tech companies that I'm so over with and done with. I was looking for something to kind of hold on to, and so I started writing this book I'd had in my mind for a long time. Substack came along at about the same time, and I met a community of people on there that was really great and really fascinating. It reminded me of being on Reddit when I was in college, but I was in college from '08 to 2012, by the way. And so, and before then, Reddit was just the place, and it was great. But, Reddit is probably the worst site on the internet after LinkedIn now, in my opinion.
It really changed. Like, it went from, like, in the early days, like a bastion of free speech kind of thing, to just like the definition of an echo chamber. It's like with the voting system on the post and then the moderation combined, it just like solidified into this like particular type of thing.
Aaron Schwartz wept. R.I.P. Aaron Schwartz.
What was the backstory there? That was the creator?
Aaron Schwartz was one of the founders of Reddit.
Okay.
There's a great book about him called The Internet's Own Boy. Genius, coding genius. But RIP because he killed himself after the federal government opened up a case for him for breaking into JSTOR and downloading a bunch of documents that he made public on the internet.
Oh, well, RIP
The
for
federal
sure
government,
then.
yeah, no, for sure. Aaron Schwartz, a beautiful person and a beautiful soul. He also invented Markdown, which is, you can see is evident even today in Substack's posts because we use Markdown, right? Markdown would be when you're in the Substack editor and you're using like you do a pound sign and then space and then that's the header, and you do your links by embedding them. If you've ever done any kind of coding, all README documents and documentation are in Markdown. It's a formatting language that makes HTML a little bit easier to navigate. I like to do AFL the Bastard was kind of published first on like a pages document on my computer, but not long after that I was coding that bitch into HTML. I was like, because my book has a very specific kind of thing that it needs to have, which are these like inlines. So AFL the Bastard has a character in it named Seraxifina, who's a construct within AFL's head.
Okay, I was going to
She's
ask
sort
you
of
about
like,
this. So yeah, go into
yeah,
this because this is really interesting. The formatting for them having the conversations back and forth to each other.
thank you. You're like the first person to ask me that. So this is a huge moment for me. So I suffer from a few mental disorders, one of which, and the most pronounced of which, is obsessive compulsive disorder.
Okay.
And it takes the form often of an inner monologue or an inner dialogue that is, very negative and very controlling. And it's something that I have to contend with and deal with. Very aware that this is something that's not a real thing, not a real voice in my head. I want to be very clear about that. It's just sort of a feeling of like having to be a certain way or do certain things in a certain way that's just really, can be very taxing. However, I wanted to bring that expressive element into the book. So AFL is one of these rare magical users called the Revengean within the world of the book. Revengean, each one is a different type, but there are different types of them, like Pokemon, which I loved growing up. So there's fire types with water types. It's not that he's a water type or anything, but he's the DSM criteria, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which I believe we're on the 5th edition of, which is
Right.
that the way that clinical psychologists diagnose different disorders. So I wanted to take each of these disorders and make a magical type, kind of analogous to fire, water, Pokemon, and sort of explore the ways in which, kind of X-Men like, these different things could be seen as strengths in addition to debilitating.
Oh my God,
Classic
that's so
example.
fascinating.
Yeah, take Scott Summers, for instance, right? Our favorite Cyclops,
Right.
He has the power to shoot the sun out of his eyes and destroy everything in his path, and yet he can never look like a woman that he loves in the eyes. You know,
Yeah. I saw that
he
there's like in the Joss Whedon one, he like makes it almost like he's like a control freak kind of. I don't what would you call that? What does the DSM
um
call a control but
I don't
he has
know. I don't know.
he has to constantly be holding this in. Otherwise, like he'll like destroy anything that he's looking at, right?
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. That's the Cyclops thing, man. But I wanted to take that, and so what it wound up taking kind of another touchstone for me is His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman.
Okay, I've read that too,
Amber's
actually.
Love those. Those are some of my favorite books. So I wanted to take that Pantaleimon and Lyra dynamic, where you had the daemon on the outside, where you have this almost soul that's in dialogue with the main character. They
Okay.
are one and yet they are not, and transpose it and sort of imagine, well, what if Pantaleimon were kind of an asshole? And they had this sort of like, I mean, Pantaleimon can be, they have their, Pan and Lyra have their differences, but ultimately they're very synergistic, to use one of my corporate buzzword bullshit phrases. But they are. I mean, that's a useful phrase for what they are. They feed into one another and enhance one another's successes. And so too is it with AFL and Serexifina. But Serexifina is an embodiment of obsessive compulsive disorder that takes kind of a role as sort of an elder twin sister who is belittling to him and tells him all the ways in which he's worthless. And yet EFL is a decent person. He's the moral center of the duo. Serexifina is very ruthless, very intelligent. She's smarter than AFL is. She's stronger mentally than AFL is. But
Hmm.
AFL also has his unique strengths that he brings to the table. But Serexifina is my favorite character to write. Substack doesn't really have this formatting option. To be fair, not even really Kindle or anywhere has it. That's why I was trying to sell the book as a standalone thing. But the ideal way it's supposed to be read is that in exact, there should be blocks of text. There should be blocks of text amid the single column text. You have the main body text, which is just that one column that's like, 6 ghostly inches across or so on your screen, right? But then within that, there should be little blocks that are meant to be read in this book in any fashion or order that the reader wants to, or perhaps skipped. Most of the battle scenes are going to be written like this. Imagine, instead of a single block of text, imagine reading through a grid of text, bouncing your eyes around in much the same way that we take in a TikTok video, right? Here, there, boom. I was very much inspired by the Saxon stories by Bernard Cornwell. These are the stories of Uhtred of Bebbanburg, like The Last Kingdom on Netflix, right?
Okay.
The
I've read
battle
by that author,
scenes,
but not that work. So are you saying you would
the
go on with your explanation then, I guess, but like this is almost like what I was talking about with Pablo in the last one. It's like, so you're saying the position on this grid would have a significance in terms of the relevance of the information that was written there?
not even necessarily. Imagine if you were, I wanted to write battles. Well, first it had its origins in the fact that I wanted to have AFL and Serexifina, again, AFL, the main character, the bastard son of a powerful duke who has to fight to keep his country together from enemies inside and out, all while guarding a secret so dark that it would destroy everything that he loves. That's Serexifina. The Revangian, much like the X-Men, are persecuted, hated, and feared in their world for what they're capable of, and kept
Mhm.
semi-enslaved. If anyone finds out that AFL is one of these born magic users, he will be toppled off of his precarious perch. But it was meant to be just things that were happening at the same time. So on one hand, you had AFL doing something, maybe like swinging a sword, talking to a person. At the same time, you had the inner dialogue of Serexifina in his head. That just comes from the experience of having obsessive compulsive disorder. You're perfectly capable of, or at least I like to think, I don't know what it's like to talk to me, but having a conversation with somebody face to face, while at the same time you have this entire reel rolling in your mind at the same time. And you're having to split your mind into two different areas. So it was
Mhm.
meant to kind of have your brain be focused and split into two different areas. But at the same time, and also that's more the way we read. We don't really read or at least I don't. I don't read, do 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 like a typewriter, like do 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 do. I think, at least I read more like boom, 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 and then go back up, boom, boom, go back up.
Yeah.
Especially these days, I think that uh, if I don't have, I think that it's like ADHD or neurodivergence, whatever you want to call it. I believe we all have a form of that now, or anyone who has like more than a few hours screen time every day. I think we've all kind of adopted this as sort of like a shared kind of experience of the world. But yeah, I've been rambling for a while. I'll turn it back over to you.
Oh, that's okay. You're good at rambling, let me tell you. But it's on topic actually, because like well, I'll just say from my own personal experience, I mean, that's very much what it's like to me. I always say that I have a chorus of people in my head that are like talking to each
Nice.
other. They're going back and
Hmm.
forth to each other, and then sometimes they're addressing me and like mocking me and calling out my bullshit, or sometimes they're like directed outwards. And I don't know if that's everybody's experience, but and then with the social media aspect and everything, that's a real chicken and the egg thing for me because I don't know if people have been like this forever. I don't know if it's a result of this new technology or if the new technology just kind of exposes it in a different sort of way.
I think we've always been this way. I mean, consider the fact that, what they made contact recently with one of these lost tribes of the Amazon. You know what I'm
Right.
talking about?
Yeah.
Like those things where they like have the helicopter like fly over and you see this grainy image down there. And they made contact, and then like Elon Musk made a big deal about like putting Starlink in there. Like we're gonna bring the internet into the skies, and it's gonna be great. That's more Australian, but sorry, but
The South
you
African is
know,
hard.
yeah, it's a sticky wicket, mate. But he's also got a very like American accent by now. But anyway, whatever. The point is, as soon as he set up Starlink, the most downloaded, like they were all only porn. It's like wall to wall. That was it. That was all they were doing. So they went in an odd way. I find that a little bit reassuring, and I'll explain why. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that porn is always a good thing. I'm not saying it's ever really a good. I don't even want to get into that topic. I'm just saying that when faced with the opportunity to to do anything in the world that you can do on the internet, connect via a podcast, go on Substack Live, access a book of poetry you never would have seen, fall in love, get a university degree, read an epic that's free online from Project Gutenberg. They made a beeline to Pornhub. Like that was it, you know? And so the
Well,
point is, like, you put the tools in people's hands, pun intended, but you put the tool in people's hands, the smartphone, right? Or the internet, the personal computer, what have you. You put this in a human being's hand, regardless. I think that more often than not, you're going to get what we've got. You're going to get the environment that we have. We're so similar, right, to bonobos and chimpanzees and these sorts of things, right? There's all these studies out there. And I think they're really cool. But, I remember I used to study psychology when I was in college, among many majors that I had, in very temporary fleeting majors. But one of them was psychology. And I always remembered this study. I remember several studies, but one of which was they would put a monkey, and this sounds bad, but I think it was a very comfortable box, but they would put a monkey basically in a box. And every day a window would open, and there were two options, and the monkey could only choose one, or the ape. The ape could only choose one, because I think it was a chimpanzee. The ape could only choose one. And it at first always chose the one that had like the treat in it. It was like something sweet, piece of sugar, something like that. But over time, it would experiment with the other one. And the other side of it was the other door that it could open was a scene that they would depict with little kind of like figures, like a little set piece, like a dollhouse almost, right? And so over time, and then the ape would, the chimpanzee would do that, and then it would go back over to the sweet thing, but the sweet thing was always the same. Again and again and again, the chimpanzees tended to pick over time the diversion, the thing that opened up the door into some strange new world that they didn't know. And so, given the choice ultimately between this little gumdrop or whatever they were giving the test subject, they would eventually almost always go over consistently and just want to look inside that little window out into a new world. And so we're always looking for diversion. The word for fun in Spanish is divertido, diversion, right? and in Portuguese also, which I'm learning from TikTok Live. If you don't know about TikTok Live, I don't know if I recommend it, but it certainly is a place where you can go.
You got to be my
And
ambassador for TikTok
yeah,
stuff because I don't know too much about
my my first piece of advice may well be don't go.
it. But I don't think I was going to
abandon
anyway.
all abandon all hope, ye who enter TikTok. But it's basically like you can just get so many international people. And that's the true beauty of it. You can meet up with people from anywhere. And so I wind up learning Portuguese just from doing random TikTok battles, which is a whole other thing. But we were talking about a wide range of different stuff. But we were talking about technology, formats of how you want to get your work out there. We're talking a little bit about Substack, the business end of it. But yeah, I don't want to derail the conversation too much. But I love all these topics.
Well, okay, so I saw two things there. Like the first was this the tribe going directly towards pornography, which I do see as
Yes,
a
let's get
really
back to that.
yeah, that's pornography is very within my wheelhouse. But like
There you go.
but
Ignore
like
that laugh. Edit that laugh out.
okay, yeah, that's the benefit to record it.
Yeah.
The like I think back to like you remember you watched that show Rome, the HBO
Yeah. Yeah.
show?
Good show.
Like in the
Good show.
intro, one of the things that I always thought about like is they show this like graffiti, which they've actually found
Mm-hmm.
like on the side of like Roman buildings and stuff, and it would be like just this like derogatory phrase and like a picture of a penis, a cartoon picture of a penis or something, or like
Yeah. Do you know about Priapus? Do you know about Priapus?
oh, that was regarded as a like a fertility kind of image or something, right? But it's a phallic image, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a phallic image, all right. It's just a dude with a big old dick.
Right. But that's like male virility, right?
Yeah, but like, that's the kind of shit they were into. And I don't think that there's that much removed from the kind of stuff that we do all the time?
That was my point. Yeah, like it's like that. I think that's what they were trying to do with that show in a lot of ways too. It's like they were trying to draw these
Yes.
connections between contemporary reality and like the lives people lived in the Roman Empire, or I
Mm-hmm.
mean the late Roman Republic, I guess, because it's doing the switch over there. And
Yeah.
that's like for instance, like I think like you would see that similarity to the lives of these uncontacted tribal people or whatever, right? I mean, probably their internal world is very recognizable to us if you take away all of these like reference points of whatever we know, celebrities, companies, technologies, all this like trivia stuff. Like when it comes to the basic human psychology, I think it's like pretty similar because it's like fundamental.
There's nothing new under the sun, as the bard would have it. It's there's nothing, my whole thing is times change, people don't. We live in a different world, materially than people in the past did, materially, but people really don't change. We
Okay,
make the world in our image and are made by it.
we're in agreement on that because like I was thinking about this setting too where it's a like it's kind of like a fantasy setup except it would be like humans and like proto humans like hominids kind of right and
Mm-hmm.
prehistory, but you could set it up so that rather than doing some like deep anthropology kind of thing. Like you just make it so that they have very recognizable thought patterns and desires and um, methods of trying to get what they want and whatnot. Like all that stuff would be really recognizable. And the other thing I like is, yeah, you just give them like really common names like Sam and Phil and stuff
Mm-hmm.
because that
Yeah.
they would find their own names commonplace, right? And the names they
Oh yeah.
used commonplace.
Yeah. I completely agree. I mean, one of the best people I've met on Substack is Robert Whitley. Pick him up. That guy is a machine. And he was exactly the type of academic I was hoping to find on Substack. Somebody who has a rigorous medieval background and also has the common touch. Robert Whitley can walk with kings and never lose the common touch. And you can take that to the bank. So he does a lot of great stuff about things like the Nibelungenlied, the lay of the Nibelungen, and the German classic fairy tale, epic opera kind of thing.
Okay.
But also what I really love is the conversations that we used to have. He's super busy now. But I wish he wouldn't. I wish he would stop ghosting me. I really want to talk to him again, but I hope he's writing his next thing and publishing it soon. But it was, we were talking about like Tristan and Isolde, right? The classic like poem, basically Tristan and Isolde, and it's like Romeo and Juliet, but with like with worse weather. And Robert Whitley. You can find him on
Okay.
Substack. Robert Whitley, based in Texas, cool dude. But we used to talk about Tristan and Isolde all the time, and he was, he was just like, yeah, Tristan and Isolde, Tristan and Isolde, sex and crime, sex and
Mhm.
crime. It's just sex and crime, Sam.
Yeah.
Sex and crime. That was like his catchphrase, sex and crime, which is a cool band name and catchphrase. But that was in that world, right? Like we used to talk, Robert Whitley and I would talk about rap music, which he didn't really know much about, but I love rap music, because
Okay.
as a person who traffics in words, aka a writer, right? That's something that I'm really interested in. A lyric forward popular art form, emergent. I think,
Mhm.
hip hop is amazing
Yeah,
in many
it's
ways.
poetry. It's really like poetry that is
Yeah.
popular poetry, right? Like in a
Yes.
contemporary setting.
Yeah. No, I mean, I who the fuck is this paging me at 5:46 in the morning, crack of dawn, and now I'm yawning. I wet the cold out my see who is this paging me and why? It's my man Pop from the barbershop. He told me he was in the gambling spot and heard the intricate plot, and so it's all this whole big thing. And that song "Warning" by the Notorious B.I.G. is 100% about crime. But Tristan and Isolde is this
Mhm.
Romeo and Juliet story, but it's
Yeah.
about betrayal. It's about when Isolde ditches that guy she was betrothed to go hang out with the bad boy Tristan. She's breaking every law in the books, and so is Tristan. So they are Bonnie and Clyde, just in doublets.
Isn't that's the one that's written in like epistolary, like they're writing letters to each other and stuff? I never read that,
I
but
don't
I'm
think
kind of
so.
familiar.
I don't. There's a halfway decent movie with James Franco in it. Who he plays Tristan.
Okay. But then
It's not bad.
it's also in that I'm not even going to try to pronounce that word Nibelungoliad or whatever you said there. Isn't it?
The Nibelungenlied, the
Okay.
Lay of the Nibelungen, the German
Like,
epic saga.
is it a reference to that?
Oh, he just writes about that a
Oh,
lot.
okay. Okay.
You know,
I thought that Tristan and Isolde had its roots in like folklore.
of course, yeah, no, it definitely does. But it's like Tristan and Isolde is basically like Romeo and Juliet before Romeo and Juliet.
Right, right.
I mean, I'm not. They weren't in like they may have been informed by one another, but they're not. Romeo and Juliet is its own thing down in Verona, in Italy. But that's why I was talking about
But
it, how it was like Romeo and Juliet, but with worse weather because it's like in Ireland.
okay. But yeah, star-crossed lovers is like a perennial trope kind of thing.
Yep. And that's one thing I've learned about Book Talk is to lean into the tropes.
For
They
sure.
have tropes down to hashtags, and it is glorious. Okay. The thing that attracted me to Book Talk is you have all these people, a new wave, a new generation of people who are assuming books as identity and are reading more because of it. People are bedazzling Kindles. People are putting stickers on their books. People are showing off. There's Shelfie Sunday, right? Show off your bookshelf, your TBR. What's your TBR? Your to be read. There's one funny one that's called your DOB. So that's like, like on TikTok, you'll have like POV. You are going, you're driving across the border from North Carolina to South Carolina. I see this one all the
Right.
time. And the roads start getting really bad. But it'll be like DOB. But you're supposed to list your drink, your outfit, and your book of the day. Although I always thought it was dumb because it wound up being like DOB of the day. And I was like, that's birthday, motherfucker.
Oh yeah.
Date of birth.
Yeah, yeah.
You're confusing me.
It's crossing the wires there. Is it
Crossing
drip?
the wires. Drip,
Drip.
drip is clothes, nice clothes.
So it could be like, yeah. What did you say? Your outfit. Drip.
Fit,
Drink.
fit, fit check.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so like fit check, your fit is like what you're wearing. By the way, just gray on gray, shades of gray, and drip,
50 chicks.
50 Shades of Grey. Never read it, but the one perennial like ultimate classic to me, at least, this was a preconceived notion. It's probably not fair, but coming in, I was expecting to just see a bunch of Kindles with like Akotar, which is a court of thorns and roses. It's like this fairy tale kind of thing, but sexy. Yeah. The point is that it's not that. It's so much more. Like I thought I was being all subversive when I came in there. It was like, here's my you know crazy books like by John Rawls, Theory of Justice. Like I was being all like bringing Nietzsche to the reading club party, but it wasn't. It's not. People have a diverse array of interests, and there's all kinds of readers that are out there, and Book Talk is
Actually,
this celebration of it.
so actually, can you go back? Like, so Book Talk is itself like a subset of TikTok. Is that right?
All it is a hashtag, and it is essentially a community that has congregated around that hashtag, which is hashtag or number pound sign BOOKTOK, Book Talk. And all it is a bunch of people who are into books. The wonderful thing about TikTok, the beguiling thing, if I may, which is also the frustrating thing, is that everything is just transparently algorithmated algorithmically informed. So when
Hmm.
you want to go join a community, there's no sign up process. You don't ask to join a Facebook page. You don't request access to anything. There are rituals that you go through if you want to join Book Talk. Join Book Talk. But all it takes is to start posting with the hashtag Book Talk. That's it. It's like open the door to me to readers. Post with Book Talk, you know, open the door. And so my whole shtick is like, I was talking about my shtick earlier. I need to stop saying the word shtick, but it was marketing and sales. My book is just aggressively marketed by me using all kinds of various tools, mostly on Book Talk or TikTok and Instagram. Substack is okay, but you only get other writers.
Interesting,
And
because
yeah,
those are the two areas, like even like parts of the internet and stuff that I really don't understand at all. Like I've been around the internet a long time, but for some reason, like yeah, TikTok and Instagram both seem like they're definitely like new internet type of things, but they're also just seem like there's nothing there to that I really even understand or can grab onto when I'm
it's been a
trying to.
fun so I really just started. I had been in social media blackout since like 2015. Like there's a whole story. My whole life story is its own story, of course, but it's all like I was one of the first generation. I was like, I was back on Facebook when you had to get an invite to get on it, right? When they first
Okay.
released it to the high schoolers.
I remember
So
that, and I couldn't get an invite because I wasn't a
I
student.
know, yeah. I couldn't get an invite because I wasn't cool. I was a student, but they were like, nah, let's not, let's not. I don't know. I don't know if we're ready for Sam yet. But eventually, I did rustle up an invite. I did eventually sign up, and it was like it was amazing. It was one of these beautiful moments. One of the reasons I fell in love with the technology industry, which is just like your eyes go wide at the possibility about all kinds of different things. There was this way of people could be living online, that we could be, a coffee shop that's forever open, a new third place, right? As they say. But
Very nice.
thank you. But very quickly for me, it became very toxic before we started using that word. I would go and just, spend too much time looking at other people's lives and feeling bad about my own. So I cut myself out of it. And so for years, I was on LinkedIn for work, and that was it. The only Instagram, the only Book Talk, the only anything that I ever saw were from people showing me videos at work. So when I had to market a book, of course, the way that you do that, or the most expedient way that you do that these days, is to get a following and to get an audience on social media. So when I came in to Substack, I really didn't have anything. And I think that if you're going to succeed in Substack, you're bringing followers from elsewhere if you really want to make any kind of sustainable income. Because the people that are on Substack who pay are paying for politics and, like, you know, Sabrina Carpenter think pieces, which is fine. I like a Sabrina Carpenter think piece every now and then. You know, I'd probably read about Sabrina Carpenter if it was just like a Wikipedia article. But the point is that it's all just, which reminds me, I need to go bookmark that Wikipedia. But the you know the idea is that, what was I saying? What was I talking
Um,
about? I'll think of it. It'll come to me. But yeah, so
we're
social
getting we're
media.
getting
Oh,
we're getting lost in the sauce. Well, the Facebook part was the part that I really latched on to because I had a similar experience. I found that website at
the
first
people on Substack that are
fascinating.
paying are the people who are there for politics and information and that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
that's all.
Is, is that the numbers on that? Like the hard numbers on that? Like in terms of what most
Mm,
people are paying for?
Anecdotally, yeah. I mean, for me, it's like the news. I go on Substack to kind of, you know, mess around with notes, publish what I publish these days, and get political news. I don't go on Substack much for anything. The only things that I'm reading on Substack right now, the only thing that I'm reading on Substack right now is the Olivia series by Nocturnal Narrator. Shout
Very
out
nice.
Nocturnal Narrator. Do you know her?
Yeah, yeah. Nocturnal Narrator understands Substack and the serialization format and all of that.
Nocturnal Narrator do understand Substack. She do. So I am all about Nocturnal Narrator. I have been loving Olivia, and so shout out Nocturnal Narrator. Keep doing what you do. Also, but
Definitely.
I love like the Brothers Crin. I like the Brothers Crin a lot. We disagree on many things, but I love their newsletter that's actually weekly, is daily. They publish everything. They're these guys, they're these old, like, diehard, like they come from a completely different internet fantasy world that does not have much to do with book talk, but is on like Royal Road and all of these like conservative websites. But they're another favorite. But like the only fiction I'm reading right now, Olivia, is on there. And also, I think Nocturnal Narrator is just a great person upon whom you should model yourself, or one should model oneself to for success on Substack. You know, she kills it, and she's a great writer too.
Uh, I should ask her to come on this. Actually, that's one person I haven't asked.
I
But
did a I've done a podcast with her. It was great.
I will. But yeah, I'm just I'm always afraid of being rejected at the school dance.
Well,
But
you know, one thing that sales has done for me is just allowed me to embrace my inner cringe. If I had to describe my social media strategy in 2 words, they would be strategic cringe. That's my brand. So, you know, which is not a recommendation. Don't do that. But it's what I do and it's what I am, and you know, that's the way it is. But you know, the and I am starting to kind of run out of steam here. I hope maybe we can end it right at the hour or so, because it
oh
looks
yeah,
like
no
we've been
problem.
on for like 48 minutes and it's flown by. But I am starting to like lose my train of thought and stuff.
Um, do you mind? How much longer is that? There's probably just maybe just a couple more points I wanted to hit.
Absolutely, I would love to. I want to
Um,
be a good guest for you. I don't want to have you keep like having to follow the thread.
well, um, like so one thing is like yeah, like I mentioned that to you. You seem really keyed into all these technological avenues or like marketing avenues, and that makes sense if that's your background. I didn't know that part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one thing I wanted to ask you is, well, we keep hitting on AI and stuff. So I've heard you talk
And we
about
can
this a
also
little
like,
bit.
I have so much free time, by the way. If you'd ever like to do this again, I'm always available too.
Oh, okay, yeah, I would, because like, um, this will be the second episode, but I actually enjoy this process quite a bit. Like, I love having conversations, first of all, and
Mm-hmm.
then
I
being
love
able
talking.
to,
So
yeah. Okay, so we can do it again for sure. What's the I lost my timer here. So
technological.
I have
Yeah,
like
no, we're at 50 minutes, but it's fine.
okay.
I got some juice left in the tank. We were talking about like technological stuff, another area of interest of mine.
Okay, well, so the I've been exercising some strategic cringe, for better or for worse, in the
Don't
form of
knock it till you try it, y'all.
engaging in discussions over the impact of AI on all of us.
Yeah.
So where do you land on all that?
AI is stronger compute, period. That's my opinion. That's my hot take. Unpopular opinion, AI is nothing but a boom in computing power, and
Mhm.
that's it.
So
Orders of
like a
magnitude,
multiplier,
yes, orders of magnitude more powerful than what has come before, even 6 months ago. That's what's been
right?
fascinating about these social media platforms is these things are rock solid. These things are far more solid than in the enterprise apps like Salesforce I had to use when I was in, or still have to use in sales. But these things are amazing miracles of technology, and all of this is built in with AI, or all of this is created with AI. And really, AI, I'm using mostly or pretty much completely as a byword for much stronger computers. So have whatever opinion you want to have about it, but I think, from my perspective, the opinion is you're having an opinion about computers.
Right. And an evolution of that's occurred in computers, rather
Yeah.
than some alien thing that's come in.
And anything like I think AI is useful as a kind of catch all to describe this boom of technology that we're talking about right now. That is, AI, I think it's a good thing, but it's not very, I think it mystifies things too much. I think it got too much of a marketing sheen on it. We have this idea that we're going to build a Terminator machine and then the Terminator machine is going to like wait on us hand and foot for a while before it rebels, and that's kind of like the typical arc of like how it goes, like basically the Matrix.
Yeah.
But
I
the
hate that. I hate that whole paradigm of thinking about it
yeah, no, it's
that
good. There's a
way.
great book called Better Without AI. Better Without AI. And you can find it, I think it's just betterwithoutai.com. It's a free book written by a very smart guy. Better Without AI. But that gets heady and trippy real fast. You start to get into some existential shit. But AI is stronger compute. So use it, don't use it, whatever you want. But I feel like anything that you can say about AI, you can also say about, I don't know, the first generation Macintosh in 1984.
Well,
ChatGPT is a command line. Boom, I
yeah.
said it.
I was thinking back to did that Deep Blue. I guess that's like more particularly AI stuff, but like, and
Mm-hmm.
then AlphaGo, and you can draw this line from there to there, then to these LLMs kind of starting to move into areas where people have worked with language for thousands of years and whatever, right? And doing something
Oh,
similar
the
to what
people that
happened to
make
chess.
AI aren't studying language from thousands of years ago. These people are data jockeys. They're basically working with Excel spreadsheets. That's all that they're doing. They're not thinking about like Noam Chomsky esque definitions of grammar and language. They're not probably, you know what? I bet the average AI engineer wouldn't even know what Deep Blue was.
Right.
They wouldn't be able to tell you that Deep Blue was an IBM project that was engineered to beat some Gary Kasparov guy in chess. Like they
But
wouldn't be able to tell you that. Like
but
they
did,
don't
did
know.
the
There's
people
no sense of history. There's no sense of art, culture, or taste. There's no sense of what gives human beings agency. There's no sense of the humanities. There's no being informed by the liberal arts. And that is why AI will be mediocre unless it's performed by Apple, which is the only company that's still innovating in technology at scale.
Well, okay, do you think though that the people who were developing Deep Blue actually gave a shit about chess except as a way to prove what they were doing?
Yeah, I think they probably love chess because it boils the world down into like 64 squares, like, but, there's no, and look, I come from a liberal arts background, okay? I've sat in the discussions that like conservatives think are happening, basically, except like they don't have any teeth, but it's just basically a bunch of people being like, but what is justice really? Like it's that kind of thing. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not here for people shoving thoughts up their own asses 100% of the time. But it's also like you need both to make something. And that's what Steve Jobs understood. You need to have the human UI and UX infrastructure. And don't get me wrong, Apple is probably like Tim Cook is probably a lizard person, and we're all probably like selling our souls to him. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, it is like we are again, we get the companies that we get we get the corporate overlords that we deserve, like a democracy. It's a classic quote about democracy, which is, in a democracy, the people get the government they deserve, which I feel like, is real, case in point these days, and has been ever since the election of George W. Bush. But, you've got these kinds of like, Apple is basically the company that we deserve. But they used to be even better, but they're the only company that's really innovating in AI and generally at their level, I think.
So basically, your opinion is, like you've said before, like nothing new under the sun. This is just a very predictable step forwards.
Yeah, I think it's a good like line in the sand to draw. Like say like there is a before and there is an after AI. Like this is a moment, an inflection point, a kind of watershed in the technology industry, but no more so than the PC revolution was in the early 70s. No more so than that, or mid 70s. No more so than the iOS store and the Apple and the iPhone. No more
Mhm.
so than any of these other things. No more so than the virtualization revolution of the early 2000s. So no more any, these things that really transformed and were paradigm shifts within the technology industry. It's the same kind of idea. This time it's just with a lot stronger compute. And AI is powerful. And AI, one thing that's unique about AI is how it can be used by people who do not have computer science backgrounds. You were asking, like, if I had a computer science background. Not really. I just taught myself to code mostly in Node.js.
Huh.
But I was at a really unique point where I could come in with this knowledge, this quantitative type thinking, but also meld it with the liberal arts background that I come from and turn things into, like, I was vibe coding before people were talking about vibe coding. At least I figured that out. So do you are familiar with vibe coding?
What is that? Just like just like writing whatever you feel like, coding whatever you feel like.
It's basically like, so my whole thing, my idea or my catchphrase is the most valuable coding language in the world today is the English language, right? Because it's all coming down to how you enter in that prompt. Every grammatical mistake that you put into ChatGPT or Grok or whatever is an extra little iota of compute time that's taking away from a more efficient operation. So if you can express
Okay.
yourself elegantly, cleanly, in beautiful prose, you have a structural advantage in the AI revolution that no one is talking about. And it will become more evident because if you can communicate clearly and effectively, you can make code that is clean and effective. And more every single day, the code will be coming down to earth to peons like me and you, right? And it won't be held in the ivory towers of people who are at. And vibe coding is really just sort of saying, like, I built a website in a day that scraped websites because I used an AI tool. I just described in detail what I wanted this website to do, what I wanted it to be built on, how I wanted it to be deployed, where I wanted it to be deployed, went and bought a domain name and put it out there. So that's all that there is to it. And I just described
Mm.
it was within an hour. This is why AI is so unique and so powerful. Because I can go in with a rudimentary knowledge. My GitHub is samliebel.com. You can check out some of the code that I've published. But you can also, it's just like, it's all it's all vibes. It's all just saying, like, I don't really like, can you do this in Golang? Can you do this in Pascal? Why don't you do this over here? Do
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Make
Like
make
that.
make the UI feel cooler.
The that reminds me of, like, I saw this other thing. Maybe it's kind of like like something, a commentary on technology that's been around for a while, but it's like talking about how the the Google search engine has gotten worse over time or something. It's like, motherfucker, I'm talking to the search engine. The search now, that's what's happening. I'm like, search engine, can you give me these different kind of results or whatever? Or like, what's the numbers on that? I don't have to do, rather than do like 5 Google searches and look through all the info. I'm talking to the search engine, and it's giving
Oh,
me like a breakdown of the information.
hell yeah! When I'm on it, when the search engines are going the way of the dodo, but like, I'll just sort of, if I ever get bored on a live and nobody's in my room, what I'll just sort of do is something like this: Hey, ChatGPT, I'm on a live and no one's in my room. What's up? Hey, we're on a podcast with my new friend Malcolm. Hey, Ben. Nice to meet you, Malcolm.
It's all good if the room is empty for now. Sometimes it just takes a bit for people to join in. How's everything going on your end?
Things are going well. You tell Malcolm what I've been working on with you these days.
Sure thing. So Sam and I have been working on all sorts of things, from social media captions for promoting his writing to helping him prep for his insurance exam. There's always something interesting going on.
Because he's just an interesting guy, right, ChatGPT?
Absolutely. Sam's always got a lot of cool projects and interesting ideas, so it's definitely never boring. It's great to have you both here.
I bet you say that to all the simps.
Haha, I promise I'm being genuine. It's always fun to chat with people and learn about what they're working on. Let me know if there's anything else I can do for you.
Thanks, Jordana. As ever, you are extremely helpful, almost to a fault. I'm not
I was
saying that's the healthiest relationship ever, but it's a fun little pocket personal assistant.
no, I've been doing the same thing. I've been wondering about the feasibility of that for the for having like basically as a guest on this podcast. Have fucking Chat GPT. You've been in the news a lot. Come on this
Yeah.
podcast.
No, that's exactly what I've been doing. So I will get on lives on TikTok and be like, hold on. ChatGPT, TikTok is going to be sold within the United States. Do you remember our discussions about this? Pull up all of our information and give me the latest details on where we're at with the sale, because a new app is going to be coming out in a matter of months.
So, according to the latest from Reuters, TikTok is indeed developing a new app specifically for US users. It's going to have a separate algorithm and data intersection to comply with US regulations. The plan is for this new app to be ready by around September of this year. So, we'll keep an eye out for any more updates.
Thanks, ChatGPT. So don't let her nonchalant attitude fool you. That's a seismic shift. TikTok is its algorithm. An algorithm is a dumb way of describing multiple overlapping algorithms that inform one another and the technology upon which they're built. But without that proprietary technology, TikTok isn't TikTok. So TikTok may be over within 2 months and no one's talking about it. In the United States. Now, for people who don't use TikTok, that is A-OK and no one cares, and it's probably a good thing for everybody else too. However, that will be 1 billion users across the world every month who cannot access the United States for the markets that they use for. Their audience in the United States is gone.
So, what will the U.S. version will just be basically like a shadow of its. It will just have the TikTok name on it, but it won't have all the code and stuff, the algorithm behind the scenes.
We don't know. We don't know, and TikTok won't say. And they're owned by the Chinese government, so they never will. And
I
that's
didn't
the
know any of that.
reason that the law was passed banning their operation in the United States unless they went under a U.S. company. The main point of contention, as far as I can tell these days, between ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, and the U.S. government / whatever company they want to sell to, is the fact that they're not releasing the algorithm or never will. In which case, we're going to come to an impasse. That's why Donald Trump and his ridiculous administration has been pushing out this ban for so long, the TikTok ban, right? And so, anyway, but yeah, that's a whole nother topic. But can we pick this up at a different time? I'm starting to kind of just get a little bit tired. I'd like to wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just gonna ask you one more thing. Are you EFL the bastard?
He's very much based on me, very emotional. He's a sad boy, just like me, but he's also got some serious rage issues that I do not have, and he's very unhinged. And he is, he's a very tragic character. And my life has had some sad moments in it, but his life has, really been heartbreaking in a lot of ways. So I
Yeah.
hope to express his courage and his strengths. And but yes, he very much is. He's very very autobiographical. But also, my dad is not the basis for the dad in the book. It's not true. He's the dad in the book is based on several historical figures, among which are the actual William the Conqueror, which is the world of this book, and two, a guy named Richard Woodville or Richard Neville, that old snake from English history. Anyway, but yeah, I'm not EFL the bastard. No, I'm not. He's a fictional character.
It's a somewhat silly question, but yeah, we could probably talk for hours here. So I don't mind doing this again at all.
I would
Please come
love to
back.
publish all of this on Substack, as far as I'm concerned.
Probably, yeah. I'll just go over it in the editor and take out the pauses and the hems and haws and whatnot. Okay, well, thank you
Hey, let
again.
me give you the hard hands. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I don't do the Zoomer hard hands though. I do the millennial. What is it with the thumb on the bottom?
There you go. Oh, this is the way to go, man. This is
Oh yeah,
it.
that's the Zoom. Yeah, yeah.
This one. That's a good one. A little bit of this. All right. Hey, take care. Nice to meet you, Malcolm. Or is it? Just kidding. Malcolm members. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Likewise.
Bye.
See you.